Okay. Okay, so I ask you, hey, help out the show with the YouTube algorithm. You guys give me 40,000 likes. I threaten you with violence. I get 55,000 likes. But then I say, please don't hit the like button, because if we get to 200,000, I have to do this thing that I don't want to do. And 150,000 plus of you hit it. No problem. That's the relationship we have. Okay. All right. I see you. I may not like it, but I respect it. But yeah, where we're going to start today is what I think is kind of the most idiotic story, and it involves Amazon. Right. So if you're unaware, back in January, Amazon changed their logo and icon to this. Right. You got the Amazon smile logo and what appears to be kind of like tape at the top of an Amazon box. And, you know, it kind of looks like a face. I could see some eyes on it like this or that. But apparently enough people looked at this logo and said it looks like Hitler that Amazon has now changed their logo. Right? They looked at this and they saw this. Right? Like an 82-year-old grandma that saw Jesus and some burnt toast. They were like, that's Hitler. And here's the thing. I know there are a number of people having different reactions, some kind of seeing it, some just making jokes about it. But if you are genuinely offended by this logo, you've been one of the people that are outraged and you're tweeting at Amazon, who dropped you on your head? Like, Amazon is a private company, they can do whatever, right? If they're worried that this is gonna affect their sales 2% or something like that, yeah, they're justified in changing it because that's what they wanna do. But this, I mean, can we agree this is dumb? It's dumb, right? And then, actually, wait, no, let's make this a competition for which is the more idiotic story. The Amazon story, or the story about Idaho State Representative Charlie Shepherd, who, let's just play this clip.
I don't think anybody does a better job than mothers in the home. And any bill that makes it easier or more convenient for mothers to come out of the home and let somebody else raise their child, I just don't think that's a good direction for us to be going.
Happy Women's History Month, everybody! Also, if you're wondering what exactly he was arguing against, he actually successfully argued against the state using nearly $6 million in federal grants to increase early childhood education. When I first saw this clip, I thought this was from like decades ago and maybe they like colorized the footage. Anyway, which is the more idiotic thing? Charlie Shepherd as a person, or that Amazon story? I know it might be a hard one. Then in maybe shit really never changed news, we kind of just put a new coat of paint on things and said, hey, look, it's better news. Let's talk about the situation with Addison Rae. Right, for those unfamiliar, Addison Rae is a massively popular creator and TikToker. She's popped up in the news as of late because there's all this drama and allegations that the guy that she's with cheated on her, blah, blah, things that we don't cover. Right, if no laws have been broken, it doesn't say something about society, there's not a business angle to it, let other channels handle it. But in the last 24 hours, there's this video that hit the internet. It's also begun to spread. It's now generated a lot of backlash of this paparazzi outlet following and filming Addison Rae. And in the video, we hear the paparazzi bring up the cheating rumor. She says she doesn't want to speak about it.
I don't think I want to talk about anything to do with
Brett Jr.
But, of course, they keep following her and peppering her with question. During this, while she is wearing a mask and sunglasses, so it's hard to really tell, it looks like she starts touching her face as though she might be crying, or at the very least, upset.
Do you think, is there still hope for Bradison, do you think, or is Bradison done? Is Dixon better than Bradison, do you think?
She's then able to make it to her car where they continue to record her through the window. She continues to try to hide her face, and it looks like she still might be emotional. While the video on the outlet's YouTube page has more likes than dislikes right now, everywhere else pretty much on social media, this was received with far more backlash, especially on TikTok, where we saw a lot of people responding, including large creators like Charlie Puth, commenting, "Hollywood Fix, what is wrong with you guys? Is it really worth any amount of money doing this to someone?" As well as creators like LaRon saying, "This type of privacy invasion is what has caused a lot of celebrities to break down in the past. I understand it's your job, but boundaries still exist." And, you know, I will say, I think part of the reason that the story has garnered more attention than it would have otherwise is, once again, it's been kind of connected to a lot of celebrity stories as of late. The Britney Spears documentary that came out. It was this in-your-face reminder of the shitty treatment celebrities, and primarily female celebrities, receive, whether it be from everyday people, the media, and paparazzi. And to answer Charlie Puth, yes, there will be a never-ending line of people that are completely fine harassing other people to fill their pockets. And I think unless there's some form of consequence for the person harassing others, there's some form of legislation, this cycle will always continue. And that's in part because a number of the people that are like, "Oh, I can't believe this is horrible," they'll still consume this type of content if it's about someone they do not like. And then you have the justifications of, well, the content's out there anyway, and then the people that are making it are like, well, people are hungry for it, no one feels like they're part of the problem, actions do not change, and so nothing changes. And I think it's really important that we continue conversations like this because it feels like the only time stuff like this is taken seriously is after someone takes their life and they're like, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, how did we not see what was right in front of us?" I don't know. them. It just really bugs me. And, this is in a different avenue, but part of me wonders if we're going to continue seeing celebrities being treated in this way, I wonder if that will lend itself to the continued rise of faceless creators. I mean, think about some of the biggest creators of this last year. You have creators like Dream, you have creators, of course, like Corpse Husband. You also, in general, are starting to see the rise of more and more VTubers, or people that are using virtual avatars. I have to imagine there are at least two upsides to it. If you blow up, you get huge. Most likely, a lot of people won't know what you actually look like. You won't be harassed in public. And two, I think there's an argument that could be made that by being a faceless creator, you might be able to be more broadly relatable. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have people that associate you with the avatar that you put forward, but also kind of like when you read a book, you create this character, this image in your head. Though, then there is also probably a stress to your image getting out. I mean, in fact, Corpse Husband recently even spoke about this.
Like ever? Like with how the internet is, it'll probably like inevitably happen against my will. But am I like planning it? No. When you have like millions of people that are like, I think he looks like this, or like this, or like this, and you look dramatically different from all of them, it's like, you're gonna let down a lot of people at once, and I'd rather not do that.
Yeah, that's a story, my opinion, a tangent, and now I pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts on this whole situation? Where do you land on this and why? But then, let's take a second to pay some bills and thank the fantastic sponsor of today's show, Omax Health. Many of you probably have some type of pain that prevents you from relaxing, sleeping, or even stop you from exercising. Now, I don't know about you, but when it comes to working out, consistency is key. If I do not keep up that routine, it's done. I lose all motivation, and at the same time, recovery time is essential to making things happen. So that's where Omax Health comes in. They've developed a 100% natural, non-prescription, cryo-free CBD roll-on, and this triple-action pain relief roll-on is specifically formulated to reduce inflammation, block pain receptors, and improve joint and muscle flexibility. It goes to work in just 10 minutes, and it can block pain for up to 8 hours, which has been ideal, especially since I started doing Kendall Tools rides specifically on Peloton. Oh my God, you monster. But yeah, if you have pain in your neck, shoulder, hands, wherever, then Omax CryoFreeze might be for you. Whether you're a pro athlete, an underappreciated stay-at-home parent, a working professional, all ages, you can benefit from immediate pain relief. And with 95% of their reviews being 5 stars, it is no shock that they have so many returning customers like myself. And best of all, if you've been on the fence about trying Omax, now is the time, because they are offering 20% off not only on their CryoFreeze CBD roll-on, but site-wide when you use code DeFranco at omaxdefranco.com. That's OMAX DeFranco.com, code DeFranco for 20% off your entire purchase. Then, in business news that actually affects you individually, let's talk about Google. And that's because today, Google announced that they plan to fully scrap the sale of targeted ads based on people's browsing histories across multiple sites. And notably, this follows an announcement from January of last year when Google said that they would end support for third-party cookies within 2 years. Right, and oversimplified, cookies are these small pieces of code that are usually added to advertisers and ad networks. They track users as they move from site to site. They also target ads at people, and then they see how those ads perform. And even though you had this announcement last year, and they still wondered, is Google actually going to do this? Are they going to find a way to continue selling targeted ads just without cookies? Especially because most of the ad industry is actually expecting and even preparing for third-party cookies to be fully phased out, which is also why we're seeing ad tech companies already finding workarounds that still allow advertisers to target users. However, in their latest blog post, we saw Google say, "Today we're making explicit that once third-party cookies are phased out, we will not build alternate identifiers to track individuals as they browse across the web, nor will we use them in our products." In fact, Google is now saying that it will only use privacy-preserving technologies that rely on methods of anonymization or aggregation of data. But, asterisk, that doesn't mean that Google is scrapping targeted ads entirely. The company is saying that they will still use first-party data, aka data that it collects from users directly on its own platform. So, those little things that are barely used, like the Google search engine and YouTube. But, to be fair, the limitation here is that unlike before, those websites won't be able to continue targeting ads at you once you leave them. And then, I want to send a very real and heartfelt congratulations to Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Mission accomplished, sir. COVID-19 has officially been defeated in Texas, I'm guessing because Greg Abbott yesterday announced that he was opening the state 100% and ending the mask mandate. And this move that represents the most expansive reopening of any state and also makes Texas, of course, the largest state to lift its public masking requirement starts March 10th. And, this might come as a shock to you, but this move also goes entirely against the recommendation of the nation's top experts. I mean, this is literally exactly what CDC Director Rochelle Walensky warned against during a press conference on Monday, citing the fact that the recent nationwide decline in the number of COVID-19 cases has been stalling. Also, you have community spread of the new variants, 3 of which have been found in Texas.
With these new statistics, I am really worried about reports that more states are rolling back the exact public health measures we have recommended to protect people from COVID-19. Please hear me clearly. At this level of cases with variants spreading, we stand to completely lose the hard-earned ground we have gained. These variants are a very real threat to our people and our progress. Now is not the time to relax the critical safeguards that we know can stop the spread of COVID-19 in our communities. Not when we are so close.
But they're also explicitly telling people to continue wearing masks and taking precautions, right? And while yes, over the last several weeks, cases have been generally declining in Texas, like most of the country, there is still a lot of data that makes Abbott's decision especially concerning. According to the New York Times tracker, for example, Texas still ranks in the top 10 states with the highest weekly number of cases per capita. And very notably for Texas specifically, that number could also be skewed because of the massive drop in testing due to the storm. In fact, experts have warned that Texas specifically could see more COVID cases in the fallout of the storm because people were forced to shelter together. But instead, in Abbott's announcement yesterday, we saw him focusing on different numbers, right? Noting that nearly 5.7 million Texans have been vaccinated, also pointing to declines in hospitalization. But both of those justifications can be incredibly misleading because while it is true that Texas has vaccinated close to 6 million people, only less than 2 million out of the 29 million people in the state have received both doses and are thus fully inoculated. With the CDC's latest vaccination reports also noting that Texas is 48th in vaccination rates out of all 50 states, which of course part of that is related to the storm, but still, experts say that this proves that we need to be focusing on catching up and vaccinating more people instead of rolling back restrictions now. And as far as the hospitalizations, once again, you have experts warning that hospitalization declines are already slowing down and could reverse, especially if there is no mask mandate and everything is 100% open again. But I do want to note, it's not just Texas. On Tuesday alone, the governors of Louisiana and Michigan and the mayors of Chicago and San Francisco all announced that they would be easing some of the restrictions on businesses and or the capacity at which they operate. Also, right around the same time that Abbott made his announcement, Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves made a nearly identical one with an even shorter timeline. It's also important to note that this is part of a broader trend, and it's not just states that have Republican governors or large conservative populations, right? For example, while California Governor Gavin Newsom slammed Abbott's move as absolutely reckless, he himself has also been widely condemned by leaders in his state for recently rolling back numerous restrictions. Though that also takes us deeper into the debate, because really at the core of all of this, because there are going to be people that have BS arguments, oh, these people want to shut us down forever, oh, these people want everyone to die. I think everyone is on the same page of we want to open up, it's just how, what, why, when, right? And I think the concern, we'll go back to Texas specifically for this, is that when it feels like you got the lead, you got momentum on your side, you don't pull back. You don't want to, blow a 28-3 lead. You can raise your arms in the air all you want, but that race ain't over until you cross the finish line. But at the end of the day, it is still happening, and so now we kind of have to just wait and see what happens to Texas and beyond. And then finally, today, let's talk about QAnon. No, they did not go away, right? Some of you out there were like, oh,
once Joe Biden's inaugurated, they'll realize they've been believing bullshit. They'll realize they were all misled by a giant, dangerous troll.
Well, this week, we're seeing U.S. Capitol Police ramping up security in Washington, D.C. because QAnon supporters believe that Donald Trump will be retaking power tomorrow. Yes, really. Right. As you might remember, many QAnon supporters reportedly believed that on January 20th, Inauguration Day, Trump would not leave office. Instead, he would declare martial law. He would then facilitate the mass arrest of Democrats. But then, instead of allowing reality back into their brain, they moved the date to March 4th, which is actually the original Inauguration Day for presidents before 1933, and what some QAnon followers call the true Inauguration Day. And yeah, this is why we're seeing in a statement today, the USCP saying they have, quote, obtained intelligence that shows a possible plot to breach the Capitol by an identified militia group on Thursday, adding that the department is aware of and prepared for any potential threats toward members of Congress or towards the Capitol complex, and that they are taking the intelligence seriously. With the statement also going on to say that in addition to the 5,000 National Guard troops still stationed in the Capitol, USCP has already made significant security upgrades to include establishing a physical structure and increasing manpower. That statement also follows another from yesterday where the USCP confirmed that they were already taking steps to increase security and personnel based on the intelligence they had. But that same day, we also saw the House Sergeant at Arms issuing a separate statement confirming that his office is working closely with the USCP, but seeming to contradict intelligence that USCP said they had, indicating the possibility of a militia attack, saying the significance of this date has reportedly declined amongst various groups in recent days. At this time, the USCP has no indication that groups will travel to Washington, D.C. to protest or commit acts of violence. And as of recording, neither department has clarified how their two seemingly contradictory statements relate to one another, but obviously this disagreement has made some nervous, right? Especially given the security failures that we saw on January 6th. And so, horrifying as it may be to say with a story like this, I guess we'll have to wait and see. And that is actually where I'm going to end today's show. Of course, I'd love to know your thoughts on this or any story that stood out to you. And as always, thanks for being a part of my daily dives into the news, hitting that like button, subscribing, all the good stuff. If you're looking for more to watch, you can check out one of these other news videos that I put out this week. But with that said, of course, as always, my name is Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.